Welcome back to another episode on Finding Ethereal Beings. We got some things to chat about. It's just me today, but it is actually going to be just me for a while now going forward. Dana Grace has decided to move on to other opportunities, so it is me you get for the time being. And I'm grateful to everybody that has listened in so far and that you find any kind of value in these. Um, they're fun for the way we the idea was is that we wanted to start a podcast because we had ideas and things and perspectives and all this stuff that we just wanted to help people with, and if it resonated for them, great, and if not, that's okay too. But just to put something out there, the world's changing so fast, and that's the thing about life as well. We can make a lot of different decisions very quickly, and it can lead us down different paths and all the things. And so here I am, and this is going to be my first podcast, other than the energy updates. Obviously we'll continue doing those as well, but this is going to first podcast episode. Let me spit my words out, that I'm going to do here today, just me. And I'm excited by continuing to do this. I have a lot of ideas that often fly through my mind, and I have been putting up more videos and stuff on my own YouTube channel and everything as well. So I'll continue putting on both sides. And today I wanted to dive a little bit into actually talking a little bit about life and making big decisions, and the sense of clarity that everybody wants to have, and the confidence that so many of us want to have before making sometimes bigger decisions. And it's a really interesting factor because we want to weigh the pros and cons. We want to know what is going to be, quote unquote, the best decision for us. We want to know if it's going to be the right, quote unquote, decision for us, right? But the thing about this life is being human is truly an adventure and a game, in a sense, for us as a soul being. And so in which, when you gather information about how the world really works at an energetic level, and then you start to understand, just like, they're bringing up Einstein, who had an incredible ingenious mind and understanding a lot of different concepts. But one of those concepts truly was understanding how energy was such an influence in the physical world, and how everything is created from energy. Of course, you can't create energy, but you can't destroy energy either, which means you can only harness it, meaning in the physical 3D, we're as dense as we can get here. And this is the densest form of energy you can have. And so in which we have to derive from something else, even at a physical level, even the table, the chair you're sitting on, the couch I'm sitting on, the home we live in, it's all derived from some source of energy that has created that physical material, just the same as our bodies. We're layer after layer after layer after layer of different physical pieces in a body that makes us complex as a physical being. But down to the complexities is we've all strived and began from somewhere, which is some source of energy. And so it's no different for us here as an individual being having these experiences in a physical world. And when you start to understand more about how it actually works and how you can harness energy in different factors in different ways to help change mindset, to help change health, to help change, all these different aspects of self, or bring in and start living in different eras of abundance and all this stuff, right? It all exists already. And that's the thing about it. It all exists already. And so in which, if you go at life, and of course, there's always going to be challenges, but challenges are meant to show us different things about ourselves mainly, and to see how we can move through different pieces of this in different ways by embracing different things. And so big decisions, when they usually come up, I find a lot of people are, sometimes the decision comes, but it doesn't really feel like a decision. It feels like it's kind of like a forced thing that's kind of just being pushed upon you a little bit because you've waited too long, or maybe, something happened at the job where now you're being unsure you might lose your job now, or that you are losing your job, or something's changing there. Maybe something's changing in relationships with friends or family. And it kind of feels like, man, I don't know where this is kind of coming from. Well, honestly, it's probably been a work up to that point to begin with. The universe and your higher self have likely been telling you, hey, we've got different options here. You've been sitting in the same, space for too long. We're getting bored. We want to move. We want to make some changes. The soul always wants to grow and learn. And so if we, and soul always wants to grow and learn, the body and the ego of the human wants to stay comfortable. So you can kind of see where the battle begins, right? And so many people just say, I just want to be comfortable. I just want to be settled. I just want to have enough. Well, Sure, because if I could put you in that life right now, I'm going to tell you, you're going to come back to me and say, actually, I think I want this or that now. I want to try this or that now, right? It's always about a growth and it's always about experience. So the bigger decisions and trying to, get enough clarity, quote unquote, to figure out what is going to be, again, what might be the right decision for you, although there's no right or wrong, it always gets you to a path that is meant for you anyway. There is a lot of big changes that have been happening on our planet, and so in which is actually causing a lot of big changes to happen in a lot of people's lives now too. A lot of people are waking up to different things, waking up to understanding they want different things. Maybe they haven't been happy at their job for the last 5 6 7 8 9 10 years, and now they're deciding that they want to do something different. But it's like as soon as you kind of have that awareness, things start to roll. And this is what I mean by sometimes it doesn't feel so much like a decision as much as you feel like you're being forced into it, but you're not really being forced into it because you've already decided somewhere in the unconscious mind that you want change. And so it's just being brought to you, and it's going to come down to how you react and how you decide to handle that challenge or situation or decision. So using myself as some example here, I mean, I've got some big changes on my own plate that I have decided to do, and it's all for the betterment. I know it is, but at the same point, we can always feel really uncomfortable in the parts of the change, right? So start off with the little dog I ended up getting. She's just a puppy. She is laying right next to me. But so this whole story with my dog is kind of funny, and yet some people still have a hard time kind of accepting that this is actually how it happened, but it is. So after my big beautiful lab mix, or she was a black lab cross gold retriever, I had her for 13 wonderful years. She was an amazing dog. And after she passed, it was about 4 months after she passed, I got getting this pull in meditation to look up Boston Terriers. And I thought to myself, why the hell would I be looking for another dog right now? Like my other dog just passed. I don't want another dog right now. I don't want that responsibility. I want, just some freedom because I've always basically always had a dog. I mean, I always had this great relationship with my dog. She was a wonderful pet, but at the same time, sometimes you get like to the point where you're like, yeah, I don't really want that right now. And that's where I was at. And it just wouldn't leave me alone, this idea. So I finally went in to look up, okay, fine, I'll just look up and see what kind of breeders are around this kind of area. Ended up finding one. I thought, okay, I'll just have a conversation with her. I had some questions. She was an amazing, amazing person. Amazing breeder, by the way. She is wonderful. But she answered all my questions, and all these synchronicities just kept lining up. There was just within our conversation, there was names of dogs, there was my name, there was the experience, there was what I do, and I told her what I do, and what I have as a business and all the things. And she was so on board, and she started telling me about all these other pieces that were lining up in her life that lined up with all that. And it was just one thing after another. It was pretty undeniable, right? I mean, it was so synchronized in a way. It was like I couldn't say no. So I got onto her wait list for getting a puppy. And I did straight up ask her though, how long would that be? Because I really didn't want a dog anytime soon. And she told me it would probably be at least into fall, and towards the end of the year. When I was talking to her, it was like in January. So I said that was fine. Time comes, first litter comes around, and I had mentioned to her I didn't care if it was a boy or a girl. And so she had the first litter, and there was 2 boys left to be picked from. And it just knew in that instant, again, it was like, nope, there's just these dogs. One of these dogs is not mine. I mean, I'm not ready. I'm supposed to be waiting. And honestly, by that point, it was exactly 1 year since my other dog had passed. And so there was just, again, that pull that wasn't quite meant for me yet. So she allowed me to transfer into the next kind of round, and the next round didn't actually have enough puppies. And so she gave me choice of going for one in January or one in the spring. And I chose the spring because I thought, oh man, it's going to be way easier to train a dog in the springtime. It's nice outside rather than the middle of winter. So I chose spring. And so I went and picked up LJ a couple weeks ago now. And she's 10 weeks old now. But the thing about it was she had sent me all the pictures. She told me I got first choice out of the 4 girls that were there. And I just knew when I saw LJ that I knew they were going to make it very clear which dog was meant to be mine. And that's, right away I saw LJ's picture and I just knew. I'm like, okay, I know that's her. But the funny part was I still wasn't excited. Everybody kept saying to me, oh, you must be getting so excited to get your puppy and have a dog again and all this stuff. And there was like, I was so back and forth with myself on it. Like, I was still unsure, and I just didn't know if getting this dog right now was like a good idea. I was really conflicted by that, and I was conflicted about having to raise another puppy and all that stuff that kind of just comes back up with some experiences sometimes, right? My last dog, she was a wonderful dog when she got older, but it took her 2 solid years before that flip finally switched. And I mean, she was wild. She was the wildest puppy I've ever had. And so me thinking in my brain, I'm like, I don't want another puppy. I don't want to train another puppy. And so for me, I was really conflicted. Even up until the day I was going to get her, I was still conflicted, but I was doing it. I was like, okay, I know this dog was literally brought to me for a reason. And her name was even brought to me. So her name was also brought to me in a meditation, probably a couple months after I signed up to be on the wait list. And honestly, LJ could be, a boy or a girl. So when I was in meditation, it came through and they kept saying LJ, and they were showing me the letter L and the letter J. And I thought, okay, but that seems like a really kind of random 2-letter name. And they said, no, we don't want to spell it like that. But now that you understand, we're saying LJ, this is a spelling that we have. And they spelled it ELJAY. And this is my team. And I thought, okay. And they said, when you come out of meditation, go and look that up. Like go intuitively, go put into Google the intuitive name or intuitive meaning for this name, LJ. So I did, spelled it the exact same way it was given to me in meditation. And it literally, the first thing that popped up was gift from God. Okay, so that was another really big sign of validation to me that this was supposed to be happening. Whether I was choosing at this conscious level of being human or not, I was choosing to listen. I was choosing to still say yes, because I thought they wouldn't be bringing this to me if it wasn't for some kind of reason or something that I actually wanted a higher level. And maybe I'm just too comfortable now without having a dog and not having that responsibility and not having that peace, right? Is very comfortable. It's very easy not to have a dog, right? So here I go to pick up my dog that day. It's a 2.5 hour drive from where I'm living. And I had 2.5 hours to think about this. And honestly, I'm not a huge thinker, so I don't often actually think about a lot of things. I feel into a lot of things. And I chose to question myself why I was so uncomfortable or unsure still about getting this dog. And I got really real with myself in that moment on the drive, literally on the drive. I am going to pick up this dog. And what I started to realize was it definitely was a comfort zone thing. It was, oh, it's so much easier not to have a dog because I can just get up and go and do whatever I want, not have to worry. And I mean, don't get me wrong, that is a sense of freedom for sure. That definitely can come with not having any kind of pet or anything like that. And I never had that before either. I always had a pet. So a sense of freedom was there. And for me, freedom and feeling free in that sense is very large for me. And so I really realized that definitely was a big part of it. Was I felt like I was kind of going to be restricted again. I was going to have to think about this other dog for, if I want to go somewhere, what am I going to do with the dog if she can't come with me? I mean, for the most part, I do want my dog to be able to come, but there may be trips that I know already that I want to go and do for a couple weeks or so that she's not going to be able to come with me. And so there's all this confliction that I kept having. I was running through all this stuff again. And I realized, I thought, you know what? They're bringing me this dog for a reason. There's something in this that is supposed to be of a challenge, but yet different, and going to be meeting me for something else I've probably been asking for. So I bring her home. Definitely the whole experience so far with being a puppy, she is definitely way different than my last dog. She is very intelligent. It's been a very different experience, but I also started to realize that my activeness of wanting to do more gives me now a much better excuse to just get out and go for a walk, right? Do the stairs 3 times a day, to do different things like that. So it's definitely bringing in different aspects and back into my life that I've been wanting to do, but just dragging my feet on doing because, I didn't, how it goes a lot of the time, right? We don't have a good excuse to go and do it or make ourselves do it. So we kind of put it on the back burner again. And I am no different. I've definitely done things like that to myself for sure. Chosen to do things I prefer or like to do more. So having this dog has definitely opened up different doors again to really push myself into doing different things with maybe what I have been putting on the back burner, like totally. So I see now why this dog is supposed to be here. I also see now why she's also here, because we have a very different relationship than what I've had with other dogs. And so it's giving me a different kind of challenge, but in a good, healthy way. So for me to say yes to this, I'm choosing to see the light in it and not choosing to be like, why did I make this choice? What am I doing getting this dog? So the other big piece of this is I after getting the dog, well, not after actually, before, in the midst of while she was getting older, I kept having this huge pull come in about putting all of my stuff into storage, all of it, put all my stuff into storage. And I'm like, well, why would I put all my, like, where am I going to go? And so my brain again is thinking, I need to know where I'm going to go before I make the decision to say yes to putting all my stuff in storage. But do you think I could figure out where I was going to go? Like, it was so blank. Every time I would try to bring it into meditation, every time I was like trying to think about where would I want to be, I was getting nothing, absolutely nothing. And so then I thought, okay, well, again, this is happening for a reason. Maybe I just need to commit to saying yes to putting all my stuff in storage without having to know what's next. Can I do that? Can I trust myself enough and trust in this path that's being laid out for me that is probably going to take me to things that I've wanted in my life and haven't yet quite achieved? I know they're there. I play them. I play in that energy all the time, right? But that's always still happening up here. And to actually have that happen in the physical, we still need to take the action. We still got to follow the breadcrumbs. So I finally just decided, okay, fine. I commit to putting all my stuff in storage. I'll do it. I'll put all my stuff into storage. I have no idea where I'm going. I have no idea what that looks like. I know I have to give 2 months on my lease here to break it. So I know I've got 2 months to figure it out. And so I just committed to saying yes to putting all my stuff in storage. Then a couple days later, 2 or 3 days later, I went back into a little meditation, and there it was. My next step. This is where you're gonna go. And they said, go home. And then I had another freaking like, oh no, 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 no. Like, right. Then the whole resistance things came back up again. Cause I was like, I don't want to go. And going home for me was going back to the place I'd lived for a good, like basically most of my life. And I'd only just moved, a couple of years ago to somewhere different. I thought, I don't want to go home. Why would I want to go home of all places? And the idea kept coming back was my parents have this nice RV. That it's like, it's nice. I mean, you could literally live in the thing. And so they said, come back, just ask your parents to live in the RV for the summertime, train your dog, and then from there, the next steps will come. So I could not get this off my mind. Here it was again, right? The pull, the pull, the pull, the pull, the idea that won't go away, the idea, all of it's right there. And it took me a good solid week or so before I actually decided to commit to even having the conversation. Maybe even 2 weeks before I actually decided to have the conversation with my parents about what this idea was and talk to my dad. And I decided to just do it. And just before I got LJ, actually, it was probably about a week before I went to go get LJ that it was all solidified, and my parents knew about it. They were on board. My dad was excited, and he's like, "Yeah, of course." And you can come back home and yeah, be here for the summertime, and you can stay for as long as you like. Really, it's nice of him, but I know I don't want to stay there forever, and that's where it's going to happen now. So now we're going to be moving out of the apartment in June. By the end of June, we're out of here, and we're headed back to mom and dad's, and everything's going to storage, and the next steps will come. I know they will. But that's the thing about this is to have the faith and the trust to know it's showing up for you for a reason, even if it doesn't make sense. But if you cannot get rid of the pull, if you cannot say, talk your way out of it, or you have to talk your way out of the situation or out of the choice or out of the thought process, like over and over and over again, I can guarantee you it's probably because your higher self is saying, please say yes, please say yes, please say yes, and dropping it and dropping it and dropping it before to see if you know the conscious part of you will say yes to it being in this experience right now. You're not separate from your higher self, but the point is the fact that you wake up every day in a conscious mindset of being human, and so you still have the free will to make the choice. Even though that the breadcrumbs could be dropped in front of you, it could be like big flashing neon signs, like that deep gut feeling and that pull, and yet you can still say no to it, because that is the choice you get for being in the conscious part of self and being here as human. And it's not to say that if you say no that you're not going to have an experience here or anything like that. It's just you are probably going to take the path that is of more resistant and then what maybe your higher self is trying to get you to do, because your higher self can see a lot farther down the path than you can, right? You can think of them sitting on the hill, being able to see the whole road, and yet you can't see past the bush in front of you, right? So you don't know if you go left or right, if you're going to fall in a hole going around the right side or the left side, right? Your higher self knows that and lays out the breadcrumbs. But the thing is so many of us are so scared to say yes to the big things. that we will stop ourselves from doing so. And then we end up miserable, or we create more pain and suffering for ourselves because that has been our comfort zone for how long. And until you get out of a comfort zone, until you push yourself and say yes to something and allow yourself to have the experience with it, do you start to recognize that uncomfortability is actually probably easier to deal with than the pain and suffering we often create for ourselves on a daily basis by choosing to stay exactly where we are. So there's my stories that have been going on with some of the big decisions I've been making. And I know it's not just me. I know there's a lot of people right now that have been feeling torn and pulled and getting weird ideas that might feel like they're coming from left field, or these notions, or feeling like myself where they want to pack up everything and they don't really know what to do with themselves after that. So here's the other part though that I want to add to this about me packing up all my stuff and putting it into storage. When I decided to do that, and I again sat with it to really address why would I be doing that? I have a big vision of wanting to find where I want my home to be. And I want two different homes. I want somewhere warm and I want somewhere, closer to my family, for the nicer months that actually do happen up here in Canada. So I want the two places to be home, and I want them to be big enough that my family can come and visit, and friends, and maybe even do retreats and things like that. So the thing about it was, I realized I was getting this pull because if I did stay per se with a place already of my own here in Canada, it would limit me, and I know it would. I would limit myself from ever allowing myself to spend enough time in, let's say, Mexico or somewhere else warm that I want to go for winter times. I would never let myself go long enough. I would never let myself go long enough to find out where I actually wanted to be, or to follow the breadcrumbs in those kinds of things, because I know for a fact that if I had a place up here, I'd feel obligated to be here. And so I would lengthen the amount of time it would likely take me in finding something that I wanted to create my next home in. So to understand, if you have a larger vision, you've got things you want to achieve or work towards or bring in, manifest into your life, right? You have to remember the universe and your team know the path of least resistance, but it's never going to look the way you think it should. And they're asking you to trust in making that decision for yourself instead of resisting it and thinking that you're the only one that knows best. And it's not that you can't do it that way. You definitely can, because you've got free will to do so. But if you want the path of least resistance and the path that's going to make it the quickest to actually show up, then you follow the breadcrumbs that are being put down in front of you, because they're coming from yourself anyway. It's just the part of you that is standing on the hill that can see the path and says, here, can you trust us enough in yourself and in the larger vision of this to get you to where you want to go? So thanks for hanging in there while I told you all about my stories, but I hope it resonates for you in some way. And I hope that you can see in your own life where maybe looking back or reflecting on, or even what's going on right now, if you've been getting those pulls, to really not just put them on the back burner, to not just say, I'll get to that some other time, or someday. Someday doesn't exist in the days of the week, guys. Like, it's so easy to say some days and someday, and next thing you know, 3 years goes by, right? So don't put it on the back burner. It's showing up for a reason. The world is changing fast. And if you want things in your life, I guarantee you this is the best time to start making them, like working towards them and following those breadcrumbs, because it's going to happen so much faster than you could even imagine it to do. So I hope that you really reflect, look back, look at what's going on right now. Look and see if there's anything been there that's nagging at you. That's just been kind of the quiet whisper in the back of your mind that you just have not been able to hear because your life's been too busy. Take a moment, get quiet, allow yourself to bring forward whatever might be there for you and to see what it is, and then explore and play with it a little bit. Again, you might take 2 weeks before you decide you're going to actually make a commitment to it or not. But at the same point, at least it's only 2 weeks and it's not 2 years, right? So I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. And thank you for listening. And I still have the community going as well. So if you're interested in joining the community, we have calls twice a month, live calls, 1 hour each. We do so much different things in there. We're always looking to add and do a bunch of stuff. We also have a big library of meditations and all that kind of thing. And you can find that link in the description. You can go into that link and there's all sorts of details in there if you're interested in taking a look at that. So we hope to see you and another day and another time.